This episode of Common Health is brought to you by Reg Lantern. Reg Lantern is a straightforward and easily understandable software platform built to assist community health centers in staying compliant so they can focus on serving their patients rather than paperwork. For health centers that are serious about achieving, managing, and maintaining compliance, Reg Lantern provides a comprehensive approach and is an affordable and valuable solution. Reg Lantern can help your health center. Contact them today at reglantern.com. That's REG, as in regulations, lantern.com. For special discounts, mention that you heard about Reg Lantern on the Common Health podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Common Health, a podcast brought to you by the Virginia Community Healthcare Association, or VCHA. I'm Kyle Elliott, Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Legal Officer at VCHA. On Common Health, we discuss all things community health in the Commonwealth of Virginia, amplifying the voices of those who are served by community health centers and those who serve them. I'm here with James Orr. James is a clinical social worker resident at Community Access Network with 8 years of experience in behavioral and community health settings. His journey into behavioral health care began as a certified substance abuse counselor supervisee, where he developed expertise in addiction treatment and recovery support services. Alongside his clinical practice, he's the founder and principal consultant of Oracle LLC, providing digital marketing, website development, and social media management services. Mr. Orr combines his behavioral health expertise with entrepreneurial acumen, while also contributing to the nonprofit sector through grant writing initiatives. As a musician, he brings a creative perspective to his diverse professional portfolio. Thanks for joining us today, James. We're really thankful for the opportunity to have you here and hear your story and how you took a very low point in your life and turned it into power and are now helping others going through similar journeys in your own community.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can you talk to us about your early life, what your experience led you down the road to substance abuse? We know that addiction typically does not just happen overnight.
Definitely. So I guess to get started, I was just exposed to substance use growing up, like family members, relatives, cousins, and that was at an early age in childhood. I think as far back as I can remember, like drinking and stuff going around, and not just like with immediate family, but like relatives, like I said, cousins too. And seeing that behavior, it was normalized. So I was just kind of like conditioned to say, okay, this is just kind of what people do. And I know like one of the first times I noticed it was different, and I was thinking back on it, it was like when I was at the age, I started having like sleepovers at friends' house and stuff like that. And I went to a friend's house and I noticed like his parents like were not like drinking alcohol or anything like that. And I know I made a statement and I was like, oh man, like, is something wrong with your parents? Are they like upset about something because they're not?
It was just very normalized.
Yeah, because it was just such like a tradition, a normal thing. So it was like that like throughout my childhood, as far as like not participating, but just seeing that going on in front of me for a long time.
Where did you grow up?
I was born in Newark, Delaware, and then my father got a job. He was a pharmaceutical representative, and we moved to Lynchburg, Virginia. I think I was like 7 years old. And then I've lived here pretty much my entire life. I've left a couple times for college, but ultimately came back.
That's great. And what about friend groups? How did that help? Did they reinforce kind of some of the behavior you had seen as normalized?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was they had similar upbringings, pretty similar, and I think it's just like we were learning like as we're developing, and so then we started experimenting with stuff like ourselves, and a lot of the behavior that came with that, I think it was thrill seeking behavior, and probably just growing up and trying to be rebellious and then like kind of push our boundaries. But yeah, the friend groups that we started like using together and doing that kind of stuff with, those I think formed like in middle school, and then those went on to like high school, and then post high school as well.
And when did you kind of reach really kind of the darkest or deepest part of your addiction?
The darkest or deepest part. So that went on for, I started like getting a darker or like using harder substances like in high school, like towards the end of high school. And then, so I graduated when I was like 17 years old, and that pretty dark until like mid 20s. But it was a lot of those like habits and addictions. Like it would lead to like not having the same friends like for long periods of time, and like focusing more on just being selfish. I think it jeopardized like the judgment part of your decision making a lot. And yeah, so I think once I stopped prioritizing even those friendships, and it was really just so focused on like being selfish and prideful and just kind of arrogant. It's just like you're waking up and it's like, oh man, I hope I'm not going to get sick. Like, how am I going to do this every day? It's just like the opposite of like selflessness and generosity towards others, really. So that led, and it just keeps getting deeper, I guess. So like mid 20s, like drug fueled acts, like addiction fueled acts led to like trying to support the habit and everything, which led to poor decisions. And yeah, so then I had gotten in trouble a couple of times, and then in the mid 20s I got incarcerated, which ended up being like 9 months. And then that, like, getting incarcerated at that point, like the very beginning, the end leading up to that was the lowest part, definitely.
You talked about kind of starting with experimenting with alcohol. Do you mind kind of talking about that kind of progression of how, you know, you started with alcohol and how that led to maybe other substance use or abuse?
Yeah. So alcohol was, I mean, that was just around. That's what I saw other people using most. So I think first experimentation was with alcohol, and then that led into cannabis when I was younger. And I mean, for a while we were just trying to push the boundaries and like just do anything different that we could do, whether it was like psychedelics or like pretty much anything. Like I'd say like the worst habit was with like opiates. Like that's really when it took a big turn for that, and a lot of it's just like physical dependence that can have. And then once that really like takes a hold of your brain, and then you start forming, it's just like thought patterns, just like going in a loop every single day. Yeah. You said you were able to, I mean, you graduated high school at 17. How were you able to balance, you know, this addiction with, you know, completing schoolwork and doing all of that? So, at first I didn't do it very well. I know when I started my first semester, I did like pretty bad. So I did not have any of that figured out at that time. But then after, it was just a lot of it, I think, comes back to like, it's like pride and ego. I was like, I can't just fail out and like do this. So I just have to like figure out a way. So it's like being able to pass all the classes and have a pretty low GPA up until I got my associates, which I'm struggling to do that because I was in heavy active addiction the whole time. It was just, I mean, substances had priority, and then it was like, all right, trying to get better at sustaining that and then taking care of like a job and school and everything else. So it looked pretty shaky.
What was your family dynamic and your family relationships like at that time?
At that time, not so great, because I was just so focused on myself. Like I was just so selfish like prideful. So I decided wasn't taking other people's feelings, emotions into consideration. It was rocky, and they like my family knew what was going on. It was it was pretty difficult to hide that in front of them, and it's like it's really scary for family too. Yeah, so they're just trying not to see me like, probably like have an overdose or die or anything like that, but try not to enable too much. It was very rough for quite a while.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you mentioned that it eventually your behavior led to an arrest. Would you mind talking a little bit more about that? What were the kind of the circumstances of your arrest and kind of your experience going through kind of the criminal justice system and process?
Yeah. So the arrest, it was possession of substances, and it was. So that was before they had like drug court and stuff like that in the area, it's so awesome to see that now. Like I love that they have.
It's a great program, yeah.
It is. So I got arrested, and like I knew in my mind, I was like, oh, I completely got broken. So I didn't get bond or anything like that, and I didn't know how long I was going to be there. And they didn't do like medicated assistant like detox at that time either. So I was coming off like all these things, and I was in a holding tank like under observation for I think like 5 days or so, and I was like
so it was just straight withdrawal, cold turkey.
Yeah, like no Tylenol, nothing. I was in this holding cell. It's all just like hard and concrete. So it was terrible. So I was just sweating, and then like I was probably having like some DTs or something too, and then just like it was really intense.
You were just on your own.
Yeah. I think I was so defeated. I didn't even like try to make a phone call for like 3 days or so when I was in there. I was just like, this is I think like that really selfish part of me. I was like, I'm not going to be the same when this is done. And yeah, so that like I didn't bond out or anything like that. And then my family had communicated with my lawyer, and they had voiced that I know that was hard to kind of swallow that. They had voiced they wanted me to stay in there because I could have bonded out at one point, but they were like,
your parents thought it would be beneficial
to
some extent.
Yeah, and they were right. And other family members thought that too. That hurt really bad. But so it was like there's no indication of when I was gonna get out of there. So all of a sudden, like you're in there, like I didn't have like clothes or anything like that. You have to figure all that out. It was like in the winter. I was really underweight. But I ended up having this like it was just really unsettling. You're kind of in limbo. I had no idea when I was gonna get out at that point.
And then did you and then your case was eventually adjudicated, and what was the outcome of that?
Yeah. So it was I was in for 9 months or a little bit over 9 months total. And yeah, after that
that was what you were sentenced to 9 months.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more than 9 months. And then I found out I think 7 months into just kind of being in jail.
Yeah. What was that experience like? Did you find it beneficial, rehabilitative, or was it, how was your experience?
Yeah. So I like my initial thought that it was going to change me was accurate. So, yeah, no, I think like looking back on it, like I am like, that's one of the things I'm most grateful for, like in my whole life was, going to jail and having that experience. I had this like wake up moment, maybe like after a month or month and a half when I was in there. So I started like reading books, and I was just so defeated, and I was like, I can really sit here and just, because some people be in there, like it's boring, and like some people just sit there and just try to make the day go by, just kind of sit there. I was like, I am really going to make the most of this. Like I'm going to read, I'm going to like work out. I'm going to change the way that I think, that I act. I was lucky enough to have family members send in books. So I'd already been doing like research in the past on like neurolinguistics and stuff like that. And that was one of the big things. It was like visualizing myself in the future where I want to be and like reprogramming my entire self. So I started like reading books, like trying to learn Spanish, like college level textbooks, started working out every day, started reading about like diet, exercise, just beneficial activities, making a game plan, which was, I had told the judge like during sentencing, I was like, I want to go to college and become a counselor to help people like myself at some point. I really just ran away with that.
Wow. Was there any particular book or anything specific that you really enjoyed reading or helped change kind of your attitude or your mentality in life?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So the neurolinguistics in general, because there's some heavy exercises in there about like that whole visualization process, and then doing like a deep like reprogram of yourself and how your brain works. That, and then that's when I started learning meditation. I don't know if you're familiar with John Kabat-Zinn.
No, I'm not.
He does the mindfulness-based stress reduction program. I think it's in Massachusetts. It's really great. And a lot of the research they have on that, it wasn't until I started like doing this path and like deep breathing meditation that it really transformed me from being just like super, I'm still selfish, but like back then I was like just so like arrogant and just conceited and just like, if it wasn't about me, like it was just like not so great. But that, and then like some other books just randomly in there. It was about like a good example. One of them was talking about like Bob Dylan, I think, and it was like he had this saying in some of his music. He believed in mantras and like positive affirmations. It was like every day in every way it's getting better and better. And I would use that like pretty early on, and I'll just say it every day throughout the day. A lot of good books, a lot of reading.
Do you still utilize those meditative techniques and mantras today?
Yeah, like with great success. Like I start off, like that's one of the biggest things. It's like just not being on autopilot and starting off the day with like prayer, meditation, like deep, healthy breaths, and just being present and like just having good intent with the day.
I love that. So you were sentenced to a little over 9 months or so, and then is that when you were released from jail, or were you released early, or what was the timing on that?
No, it was so they didn't do the sentencing until I was there. Like I had no idea how long I was going to be there. It was like 7 months, and then they're like, "Okay, you've done all this, and then it's 2 more months or so."
Okay, and what was it like once you're sentenced in? What was it like, kind of transitioning from jail back out into the world?
Yeah. It was awesome. It's really, and if you talk to people that have been incarcerated and stuff, they say like, and I can't imagine like how much worse it is if you're in for longer too. Like it's weird. Like, yeah, like when you get out, like you feel like people are looking at you and people can tell that you're in jail and like that you've been through all this stuff. Like it feels like it's on your forehead. But that goes away over time. I was really happy. It's great. Like just the simple things, like it really just like gave me a lot of humility. Like just being able to go to the fridge whenever you want to and get something out of the fridge and being treated with respect. Yeah. I
was going to ask, was there anything that, you missed or just were like really excited to do once you got out?
Yeah. It's like everything. Like, and then like, so for 9 months, you can't really go outside like at all. So it's like then all of a sudden you can just go outside whenever you want to. So I started running a lot too. Everything. It really gives you a new perspective and like just a sense of appreciation. Like I'm so happy all that stuff happened to me, because it's like it just really changed how much I appreciate things.
How was it dealing with or coping with any kind of did you desire to use drugs or alcohol again, or was it difficult to, kind of combat those feelings after, being incarcerated for 7 or 9 months?
Yeah, there was, I had feelings like pretty early, like after I was released. Like I was set on what I was going to do and everything. I had like a small hiccup towards the beginning after I was released, if I'm being completely honest, which is good because I think it's just so much stuff going on. It was short-lived. It's probably like a couple weeks or so. And then I was just like, you know what? This is just, it's not a
You knew that wasn't for you.
Yeah, it didn't outweigh like the passion that I had for doing all this beneficial stuff. And then after that, it just like really investing myself into staying busy. Like I'm just still constantly like doing projects and different things all the time to stay busy.
So you had told the judge that you were excited to become a counselor.
Yeah.
And so, and you ultimately pursued your education to do that. What was it like? What was the process like after, being incarcerated and now looking at wanting to go back to school?
It was awesome. I was I was really lucky for everything leading up to that. I was just so motivated. So my brother was going to Liberty University online, and I was like, let me go ahead and just sign up and get that going. I got a job at like a tire shop, and my budget was really tight. I didn't have, like, I couldn't buy like all the food I wanted each week. I got this really, really cheap apartment downtown, and but I was like so happy. Like, so I like got my classes set up, and I'm in this like really beat down apartment. And I really made the most of it. I started like reading into like, it was really like diet, like sleep habits and health, and then like just doing any beneficial thing that I could. I was working out 6 or 7 days a week, like then, which I still do today. But like it was like, how much darkness do you need in the room? I would like take a shower and then like crank it ice cold at the end, which is really hard to start doing it. But it was just like stacking up all these beneficial habits, and all these small things like turn into like this massive change in yourself and like how you feel and operate over time. But it was just like studying, exercise, like eating healthy. I didn't have money to like go out. Like I was cutting it really close on groceries a lot of the time. And then I got a job at a community health center in the call center first at Johnson Health Center. And I'd get as much overtime as I could when the opportunity came up, and I just grinded out like a strong like 9 months at that place.
Now, are you in school while you're doing this, or are you getting ready to apply to school?
I was in school.
You were in school, okay. And at this point, you're pursuing your bachelor's?
That was the bachelor's, yeah.
Okay, excellent. And then what did you when did you ultimately graduate, and what degree did you pursue?
That was at Liberty, and the bachelor's was in psychology.
Okay.
And then I moved to a position at that health center and behavioral health.
So you knew you were on the path. You wanted to be a counselor.
Oh yeah, and then I had another promotion there, and when they started the OBAT, or I think it's OBAT program now, and I started the Certified Substance Abuse Counselor Supervisee stuff then.
And where did you pursue your master's degree?
The master's I pursued at VCU.
Oh, excellent! Go Rams!
Yep.
And were you working while you were also pursuing the master's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was working while I pursued the master's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were getting kind of that clinical experience while also doing the master's degree.
Yeah, I was doing that, and then the master's is tough.
Yeah.
So in the process of that, I'd switched over to Community Access Network. And I was doing more of like a case management role there most of the time I worked there. And I was lucky enough, like my supervisor there is at LCSW, and she was able to support me in like getting the hours and stuff for that degree.
So tell me a little bit about your role now, with as a certified substance counselor. How does how does your experience, do you feel like your experience with drugs and alcohol, does that help you in your role today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it really shaped who I am overall and like helped me out a lot. I think with willpower ultimately, but yeah, so like now I was lucky enough they offered me a position. Like I'm doing my residency to become an LCSW. So it's individual therapy. But yeah, all the stuff I've learned throughout the way with that has a really big impact on how I just interact with everybody and just sensitivity to what somebody's going through or like potential substance use, and just seeing like I know like how much it can just break people down.
Mm-hmm.
That's still like a big soft spot or like passion of mine, is just like that's like my population. I work with any population or any age or stuff like that, but that's one that's just, it kind of hits home, and I know like the defeat that can come with that, so I remain sensitive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about kind of that temptation when you first came out of jail. Do you still, what tools or other areas of support do you lean on, or do you counsel others to lean on when they're really having difficulty, with that temptation?
Yeah. So tools that I lean on, I try to stay busy. One of the things that's helped me out the most, like challenging any kind of thoughts like that, or even like urges, like just not even really having them. It's just focusing, and it's a continued path. Like I think really in the last like year and a half, I had like a major vein of just being selfless and like truly seeing the rewards from focusing like my main energy on selflessness and just genuine interest in helping others, and just the feeling that comes with that, like getting outside of yourself and focusing on supporting others, like acts of service, like they'll say in recovery. It's this, I think it's detrimental to your spirit, like your mind, everything, because it, like I was saying, it brings you outside of that, like me, I'm having these feelings, and I'm focusing on how can I help somebody else today, and that it feels really good. And I didn't know that for a long time because I was so focused on myself. But staying busy, like diet, exercise, easier said than done, but that's just had the biggest effect on just how I feel and how I perform. Support systems, a lot of people don't, like I was very fortunate to have a strong support system. A lot of people don't have that, so try to encourage people to socialize, and then if that's something I can assist them with or kind of help out with, happy to do that. Personal maintenance, just try to work on yourself, increase your self-esteem. These are all things that help me out a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, it's clear to me, your empathy, your experience, everything. I mean, I know what makes you, a great counselor for these individuals really seeking help. So, I mean,
thank you.
We really appreciate that. Anything else you'd like to add, or any final thoughts?
I think most importantly, just like sharing this with anybody. Like I was just trying to take myself seriously as like a professional, and then I like was the student speaker for my graduation, sharing my story a couple months ago. The thought of like sharing these like private parts of my past, that idea like used to give me nightmares. Like it used to terrify me. It's like I would just hide it from everybody, and I think it's like my faith, like the people around me, and truly like embracing like what I've been through instead of like running from it and being afraid of it. Like I just hope it can, if somebody can hear it and it can inspire them, like don't give up, like share your past, share your experiences with other people, because you can help so many other, and ultimately help yourself, like by sharing all the things you've been through. Like they're not so bad, like they're beautiful, you've learned from them. Yeah, that, and I did want to the Safina initiative, which is the board that I sit on, they are planning a mission trip coming up in the next few months. They provide education and healthcare to the Rift Valley in Kenya. It's like an Eldoret. I think that's important too.
Yeah, are you going on that trip?
I'm not sure. I would like to. My wife is pregnant. We discovered that.
Congratulations!
So we have a baby on the way. So I don't know.
might be a hard time
right now. Yeah, but yeah, I have a lot of good stuff going on. I'm very grateful.
That's awesome. So, James, I just want to thank you so much for really sharing your story today. And I know it's deeply personal, but I agree. If sharing that story can help and inspire others and help them get the treatment and help they need, I think it's incredibly important. So just want to thank you again for sharing that with us today and joining us on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us today and thank all our listeners for tuning in to CommonHealth, brought to you by the Virginia Community Healthcare Association. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support CommonHealth, I encourage you to hit subscribe, share with others on social media, and leave a rating and review, or visit our website at www.vcha.org. This has been Kyle Elliott, filling in for Tracy Douglas. Thank you again, and we'll catch you next time.